Today, we're diving into something really fascinating, a new way of looking at morality that's built for the crazy, complex world we live in. It's called Ouroboros ethics, and it might just be the new blueprint we need for thinking about right and wrong. So, let's get right into it.
And look, the reason we even need a new blueprint is because of questions exactly like this one. From AI to climate change, we're up against these huge dilemmas that our old ethical systems, well, they just weren't designed to handle. These problems are messy, they're interconnected, and they are packed with contradictions.
The framework we're looking at today calls these problems a serpent's knot. And that's such a perfect metaphor, isn't it? It's this tangled, impossible mess where every time you pull on one string, you just end up tightening the knot somewhere else. So the big question is, why are our current moral frameworks so bad at untangling these things?
Well, it really comes down to the fact that we've been trying to solve these massive problems with a pretty incomplete toolkit. For hundreds of years, we've basically relied on three major traditions for ethical thinking. But as we're about to see, each one has a pretty significant blind spot. So let's do a quick breakdown of these traditions so we can see exactly what they bring to the table and, more importantly, where they fall short.
Okay, so in our ethical toolkit, we've got three main players. First up, there's virtue ethics. This one is all about your character. It asks, what would a truly good person do? Then you've got deontology, which is completely focused on universal rules and duties, the thou shalts and thou shalt nots. And finally, consequentialism, which only cares about the results. The ends justify the means. Now here's the problem. They don't play well together. Each one is obsessed with its own piece of the puzzle: character, rules, or outcomes. And as a result, none of them can see the whole picture.
So look, it's not that these tools are broken, they're just really specialized. But when you're facing a serpent's knot like AI ethics, you can't just pick one. You need a blueprint that actually shows you how to use all of them together in the right way.
And that, right there, is where Ouroboros ethics comes in. It offers a totally new blueprint, one that's built on four foundational pillars that all work together to give us a much more complete picture of any moral problem we face. The very first pillar is unity. You can think of this as the glue, the cohesive force that holds a system together. From this perspective, a moral action is anything that builds connection, that fosters shared well-being. And the opposite, what we might even call evil, is any action that creates fragmentation, isolation, and division.
Next up, we have symmetry. This is the bedrock of order and stability. This pillar represents those clear, universal rules we can pretty much all agree on, things like fundamental human rights. Symmetry provides the solid, predictable structure that stops a moral system from just collapsing into total chaos.
Our third pillar is balance, because let's face it, no system just sits still. Balance is what manages all the change and the conflict. It's about finding that sustainable harmony between opposing forces, like, say, individual freedom and collective security, and it's what keeps the whole system from swinging to dangerous extreme. And finally, we have my personal favorite, paradox. This is the engine of all moral progress. It argues that being good isn't just about being stable, it's also about having the courage to face contradictions and creative tensions head-on. Paradox is what pushes us to question old rules and sparks real growth. Without it, any moral system becomes rigid, dogmatic, and eventually totally useless. Okay, so we've got our four pillars: unity, symmetry, balance, and paradox. Now, let's take this new blueprint and see what happens when we apply it back to that original serpent's knot, the ethics of artificial intelligence. The problem with AI ethics is that it's not just one problem. It's a whole web of them. The push for faster and faster innovation, which is driven by paradox, is constantly clashing with the need for long-term safety, which is a key concern for balance. And the demand for transparency, that's a symmetry thing, runs smack into the fact that the most powerful black box AIs are also the most efficient. It is a classic knot.
And here's that tension in action. Symmetry demands that we make AI understandable, accountable. But paradox is what drives the creation of these incredibly complex models because, hey, they get incredible results. Our old toolkits would make us choose a side here, either rules or outcomes, but that doesn't actually solve the problem, does it?
And this is really why this framework is so useful. It doesn't just spit out a simple, easy answer. Its real power is diagnostic. It shines a light on all the competing values that are at play, and it shows us the true shape of the knot. It forces us to ask better questions, like, how can we find a genuine balance between all these different needs? How can we build a system that serves unity, not just raw efficiency?
All of this brings us to the ultimate goal of the entire system:
You see, these 4 pillars aren't just 4 separate ideas. They're all pointing in the exact same direction, towards a single, ultimate good. It's like a new, true north for our moral compass.
So you have 4 pillars, 4 very different functions: cohesion, order, stabilization, and growth. But they are all in service of one singular purpose.
And that purpose is what this theory calls regenerative cohesion. I know, it's a bit of a mouthful, but let's break it down. Cohesion is all about fostering that integrated well-being for the entire system. And regenerative means the system has to be able to heal itself, adapt, and renew itself over time. It's not enough to be good right now. A moral system has to be sustainable for the long haul.
This quote just perfectly captures the shift in thinking here. So much of our old morality is reactive, right? It's focused on fixing problems after they've already happened. This new blueprint, though, it's proactive. It's about designing our systems, social, technological, political, to be fundamentally resilient, adaptive, and self-improving from the ground up. And that really leaves us with one final thought. This framework isn't just for huge global problems like AI. Think for a second about the complex knots in your own world, in your work, your family, your community. Those places where core values seem to be in an impossible fight. What would it actually look like to apply these 4 pillars, unity, symmetry, balance, and paradox, to find not just a quick fix, but a real path toward regenerative cohesion?